L'chaim, Rabbi Kesselman.
L'chaim, Rabbi Wolf. It's a great honor to be here with you.
Yasher Koyach. Same as well. Me and Rabbi Kesselman were neighbors, but we don't usually share the mic together. So this is exciting. L'chaim lebracha.
Norav Simchas.
Amen. Join the discussion. New project.
Please.
A new project called By the Menatzchem. I feel great because this Menatzchem thing was something that I started in front of you before Yud Shvat a couple of years ago. We said, the Rebbe spoke about Netzach. Let's get together, Shluchim, together.
It was called Akshonim.
No, that was the original group. I wasn't related to that. As an Akshonim, but then it evolved into the Menatzchem.
The Akshonim have evolved into the Menatzchem.
Yeah, we've done some really good.
I'm very honored to be associated with them.
So this is great, and this is a new project, and we're the second week of the discussion.
Oh wow!
So the point over here is that we're discussing the Sicha. The Sicha, Parshas. You told me that you think you were by the Rebbe Sicha when the Rebbe said the Sicha.
I've been going down memory lane ever since that I mentioned that I'm very honored to be here with you to do this podcast. So I actually, this Sicha is very close to my heart because I was there. I was there when the Rebbe verbringt that Shabbos, the Shabbos after Yud Shvat, Tovshin and Beis. I remember where I stood at the Rebbe's verbringen. I was there when the Rebbe said this Sicha the night after Yud Aleph Shvat. I remember where I stood. I was 13 and a half, not to age myself, but I was 13 and a half at the time. And of course at 13 and a half, the great struggle for me, one of the many great struggles, when I stood at the Rebbe's Sichas and Verbringens, was to be able to understand.
Were you even able to hear, besides on the weekday?
It's a very interesting question that you're asking. So, in those times, I mean, you were there too, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't there that much Shabbos. I was in Borough Park. I was in Eretz Yisrael. I just got married then.
I wasn't spending a lot of my
time. Not that I was so much older. I got married from Borough Park. So we were a little young. Yeah.
So the Shabbos Dika Verbringens, whenever Yom Tov Dik, whenever the Rebbe spoke without a mic, it was very hard to hear. I mean, I don't want to give numbers because I'd just be guessing, but if there was, 3,000-4,000 people in the room, I don't think more than 15% were able to hear Bagashmias what the Rebbe was saying. In fact, there was, at the time he was a bocher, today he's a big shliach in Russia and Ukraine, Rabbi Munshine. Then Rabbi David Munshine, then we called him Dudi Munshine. When I came to the Rebbe in Tovshin and Beis, he offered to kind of host me, where he next to his spot by the Rebbe's Verbringen. And I remember he told me, if you stand next to me, you'll be able to hear, but you won't be able to see. Why can't you see? He told me, because there's a pole in the way. I'm like, didn't seem like a compelling argument, right? If there's a pole in the way, you feel like you can just kind of move your head this way or that way. I didn't fully grasp going in how it worked. But anyways, this particular Verbringen, Shabbos after Yud Shvat, I was there. I was there next to Rabbi David Munshine. I don't remember much of what the Rebbe said at that Verbringen. At this Sicha of Matzoi Achad Osir B'Shvat, I remember standing there. I remember thinking to myself, I remember thinking to myself this as a child. Why is the Rebbe talking about Yud Aleph when Yud Aleph is already finished? I do remember wondering that, thinking, did I get the date wrong? I was kind of wondering. And then I remember when the Rad came out. In those days, it was called the Rad.
I remember that.
Remember Rad?
Yes.
Rosh Dvarim. They would come out, I think, after every Sicha. Within hours, if I remember correctly, it would be like Rosh Dvarim. I remember seeing on the top, like it's printed here, Mitzoi Achad Osar. No, it doesn't say that. In the building book it says that. Mitzoi Achad Osar. And I'm like, Mitzoi Achad Osar. And I understood why the Rebbe was talking about Achad Osar. I remember the Rebbe speaking about Achad Osar. Yes.
So it's really interesting because, in over here, when Baruch Hashem I have this chus to teach the Dvar Malchus quite a lot, and I give a weekly share in Hebrew on these sichas, so you kind of get the flow of all the weeks coming one after another. There is a Achad Asar wave that suddenly takes over right at this point. It started already earlier. The Rebbe already in Parshas Ve'era starts already kind of getting very excited about the fact that the 11th month is coming, that Achad Asar is coming. And then these three sichos, Beshalach, Yisroi, and then Chav Bei Shvat. There are three sichos devoted explicitly to the power of number 11. And the Rebbe is like seeing like the entire, like everything, all of Yiddishkeit and all of the purpose and all of the kavanah and the tachlis and everything is leading to the gilui of number 11.
And then you're talking about B'choi Vorach Yisrael.
Yes.
That's when the Rebbe said that Yud Aleph Shvat is higher than Yud Shvat because it's the first day in the Nesius of Nesi Dereinu, the first full day, in the Nesius of Nesi Dereinu.
And the Hara, the Rebbe says it over here too. The Rebbe is talking about, it's very interesting in the Hara towards the end of it. He's talking about that one of the interesting, beautiful things about the Sikh is he talks about that Yud Shvat comes out on a Wednesday, and Wednesday is Nitlu HaMa'oros, Shnei HaMa'oros HaGedolim, the two big Ma'oros. And the Rebbe says to understand what's the progression of what happened from Yud to Yud Aleph. And the Rebbe says, Shinui Bahanasi. Very, very interesting lashon that you're Shinui Bahanasi. You have it over here. Order 137. Yeshleima haremez benegei lahem shechayamim Yud v'Yud Aleph Shvat. Right? Order 137. Right?
Yud v'Yud Aleph Shvat. Oh wow.
Hakshurim im inyan anasiyas Shinui Bahanasi. Because the Rebbe is speaking about our three things. There is the mitzvah of Minui Melech, there is the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek, and there is Beis HaMikdash. These are the three things that Yidden are going to have to do when they come into Eretz Yisrael. The first thing is Minui Melech.
So maybe we're going too fast. Should we start from the beginning?
Yeah, we should start from the beginning.
Huh?
But what's really...
I'm holding on to your gartel.
Right. But what really is exciting over here is that the Rebbe is like going gung-ho with number 11.
It's all about Yud Aleph.
Yud Aleph. It's all about Yud Aleph.
Okay, so explain it from the beginning. Ki Yad Hashem HaTov Alachem. So what's
Yud Aleph? Yud Aleph.
What's unique? What's
Yud Aleph? Yud Aleph. The Rebbe is characterizing this generation as the energy of Yud Aleph, and the Rebbe is saying Yud Aleph is the gilui of Atzmas. That's what Yud Aleph is. Now the system. Like there is the system. The point that the whole sikha of all these sikhas, consecutive sikhas, is there is a system. The perfection of the system is number 10. Asesphiris, Asaram Amaris, even Aseres Adibris. Even in holiness, if you set up the structure is everything is 10. But then there is the etzem. There is the Eibish Derali. And that's Mashiach. That's the Geula.
So usually we refer to the etzem as chad.
Yes.
Right? As the echot.
Yes.
As the in other words, it's not usually thought of as 11. It's usually thought of as 1.
Yeah, that's right.
The reason why it's Yud Aleph is because it's the Aleph.
Nimshach.
The Aleph into the Eser.
Nimshach ba'olam. It's we're permeating every element in existence. That's number 11.
Is that different to echot? Aleph?
No, it's the same. It's
the same idea.
It's the idea of echad versus yachid.
Right.
Yeah, that's the
concept of yachid.
That's it's Aleph permeating the ches and the dalet. It's the conclusion, it's the purpose, it's the realization of the Eibishter's dream of Nesava Kadosh Baruch Hu Liyas Leidira B'Tachtainim, a multiplicital world, a world full of the many, many, many different chalkos that there is in the world, and in there is Shaira, the Eibishter Ali. That's the
etzem in the Giloyim.
Yes, in the Giloyim.
In the Giloyim, in all the Giloyim, in Adam Yonim, in Adam Tachtainim, in the Shleimus.
Yes.
Till it comes all the way Lamata into Dir B'Tachtainim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's Yud Aleph.
That's Yud Aleph. And that's...
What I found very striking, I'll tell you something which people, when they asked me when I came to Lubavitch, like what excited me? And what excited me a lot was that
nobody ever asked me that.
Yiddishkeit used to be to me a once upon a time story. Like, it happened a long time ago. It happened in the time of the Nevi'im. It happened in the time that... And we're like nochschleppers. We're holding on to something that once was. And when I came to Lubavitch at the time, I finally, for the first time, got the experience that it's currently happening now. Like it's like there is something that we're seeing the process unfolding. We're part of the story, and we're actually hitting I came to Lubavitch at Memtes. So I came right into the Nun Aleph Nun Beis. That was my first experience. So like the energy, that energy of Mashiach, the energy that we're at, it's going to happen right now. So this Sikha particularly takes what we call the biblical story, the whole story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and the Rebbe kind of transports every element of it to the current right now. Like there is a concept of Yud Aleph, and then there is Mem. There's 40 years, and there's, because the Sikha evolves around the V'lo Nochem Elokim Derech Eretz Pelishtim. That the Eibishter, we could have gone a shortcut, and instead the Eibishter took them the long way. Shortcut would have been an 11-day, 11 Masayis. You would have gone right into Eretz Yisrael. Instead, Asivim Hashem Derech HaMidbar, V'lo Nochem Elokim Derech HaMidbar, for 40 years.
So those 40 years are seen as similar to the 10 that you were saying.
So what the Rebbe says is Gewalt.
40 years are seen as like
the structure.
The structure. The Mem Beis Masois.
Same idea. So it's the Mem and the Mem Beis Masois, which the Rebbe kind of intertwines over here, representing the Kalim of the Makablam, the world, the fixing of the world, the fixing of the darkest elements of the world. It's creation, it's the world. Mem is Be'ikah, the way the Rebbe puts it is, no, that's secondary. That's another Indian. That's Mem Beis. But Mem, the Rebbe sees Be'ikar as Ben Abarim Lebina. Bina is the full structure of the Keli of the Makabel. Moshe Rabbeinu was in Shemayim for 40 days. Yom Lashana, it takes 40 days to develop a baby. The Icarus development.
This is all we can call it Kalim. We can call it Seder Shtalshalos.
Yes, the Welt.
We can call it. Right, but the Shleimus of the
Shleimus of the Welt.
And even the Shleimus of Torah.
Yes,
including the Shleimus of Torah.
Aseres HaDibros.
Right. But instead, the Eibishter takes them, instead of the V'lo Nochem Elokim, through the Yud Aleph.
Oh, he could have taken them directly through the Aleph.
Right.
That's right.
But he doesn't. Instead, they go through the Midbar, and they're there for 40 years, because this is the Avodah of bringing the Achad Asar into the Asar.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, that's it.
That's the Sikha.
That's
one of the main Nekudas.
And you got the symbiosis, which is really like special in the Maimer, and it kind of like reflects almost like the first this Kabbalah and Asiyas Sikha, where the Rebbe is saying that the Rebbe on the one hand is saying a Maimer Basel Legani, and is pointing everything on the Tzaddik, on the Nasi, who's the 7th generation, who's going to be murdered the Shechina. He's kind of highlighting the spotlight. Mudvem and Hostututanda. You're talking about the 7th Tzaddik, who's kind of on the line like Moshe Rabbeinu. He's at that point. And yet at the same time, the Rebbe turns around and the Rebbe says, I'm not doing it myself, you're all going to do the work. And the Rebbe spends with us 40 years doing the work. So it's almost like the Rebbe is saying in this Sikha that, just like the Eibishter, I could have done it all Yud Shvat, Tavshin Yud Aleph. In other words, the nuclear energy that was released when the Rebbe said Basi Legani on Yud Aleph Shvat, on Yom Yud Aleph of the Rebbe makes a very clear distinction between the Friediger Rebbe, how the Friediger Rebbe, everything, it's in a Sikha of Tavshin Nun. I saw it in a few places. The Rebbe says it in Parshas Ve'er over here as well. The Friediger Rebbe is kind of represents the shleimus of the perfection of the world to its highest darga, Asiri Kodesh, but still within the context of 10. That's why he says somewhere that both names of the Friediger Rebbe start with a Yud, and that he's nostalgic in Tafshin Yud, and that he was born in Tafresh, Mem, and he became a Rebbe and a perfect 40 years later, when he was 40 years old. And he had 3 sections of Nesias, each one was 10 years. Yes. So the Rebbe really takes number 10 and formulates it with the Friediger Rebbe, and he passed away on Yom Yud, Taka Chodesh Yud Aleph, but the 10th day. And the Rebbe then says, but that's like an introduction to the Hemshech HaNesias, where we're going to hit the notes of Yud Aleph. And what does the Rebbe explain as Yud Aleph? Ufaratz. It's like Yud Aleph has no borders. It has no boundaries. It's Beli Gvul. It's Ein Sof. It's the Eibishter length. It's beyond the system. And that's Yud Aleph. So the Nekuda, what I found so interesting and so compelling in the Sikha is that Rebbe takes the story and interprets the amazing story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. How there as well it was coming to be Matan Torah, which the Pnimius of Matan Torah is the Hizgalus of Atzmas Mamish. Although it didn't manifest so much then, the Rebbe speaks that there's two stages in Matan Torah. There's like two stages in Matan Torah.
get there.
There is the Matan Torah that we had. There was the chitzonius of Matan Torah that happened when we went out of Mitzrayim, and there's the shleimus of Matan Torah that's going to happen for Mashiach and Torah Chadasha, which that's the Aleph, that's the Chadasar, that's number 11, that's the transcendental element, Pnimius HaTorah, Tamei Torah, and so by Moshe Rabbeinu, when we went out of Mitzrayim, it started off with the Koyach Yud Aleph. The Eibishter's intention was always to reveal his very self, but he so much wants it to be with us and part of us. In Caleb. So instead he takes us around the 40-year journey so that we can do the Avodah. And to me, if I can say something really interesting, I think is interesting to myself, is that the Rebbe is interpreting the Sikha is so interesting because it's at the conclusion of 40 years, and the Rebbe is talking about Yud Shvat, which releases the power of number 11, but yet we spent 40 years digesting it. We spent 40 years doing it together. The Rebbe is kind of telling the Chassidim, we did it together. But it seems like, to me, that this is also a achana for the next 30 years that we've been there. Because the Rebbe is kind of saying, so now that I'm revealing to you this Yud Aleph over here, and really we've done and we're ready, but Pa'il Mamish, we see that we haven't, we need to process. We need to process. We need to process the Giluyim that we were getting in Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, and these incredible revelations, and we're processing it. We're processing it. We're not chas v'sholom off the mark. There is like this chas v'sholom, we don't need 40 years, but it's more than enough. But the idea that there has to be an integration. If I can say one more thing, I feel like I'm talking too much, is that I feel that when the Rebbe said these sichos, they were coming so quickly and so strongly and so powerfully that we didn't really have time to sit back and to like really take in what he's saying. And now, because we're able to, get over the trauma, a little bit of Gimel Tammuz, and sit and go back and see what it's saying, we can unpack it and connect to it in a much more pnimistic way. Just my thoughts.
I'm going to reword a little bit what you're saying.
Yes.
These sichos, the Tafshin and Aleph and Tafshin and Beis sichos, when I try to learn them a little bit, because I was there for some of them, it takes me back very much to not just the time when the Rebbe said them, but very much a mindset. And it was, at the time, the Mashiach reality that the Rebbe was creating, generating, I don't want to say pushing, but really like putting us all into this Elokus B'Pshitus kind of Mashiach reality. I remember as a child, I don't want to make this about my memories, but you started. I remember as a child sitting at these fabrings. I remember the Rebbe saying the words, we're sitting at the table with the Sharabar, with the Leviasim, with the Yainam Shamar. I remember these things. I remember the Rebbe saying with Afnorefin and Daigun. And it was kind of like we would sit, I was sitting either on my grandfather's lap or, I don't know, standing next to Rabbi Munshine, and we were like, it was like you didn't really expect to walk out of, people say this, it's a line, but it resonates with me. You couldn't really accept that the Farbrengen was over and you'd walk outside and there'd be cars driving by and trees. There was a cognitive dissonance, forgive the expression. The Rebbe really did, it's true, the Rebbe did really immerse us in it. And at this time there was, sichas, I think, 3 or 4 times a week. The Rebbe almost always, I think, gave out dollars after the sichas, at least, for a couple of minutes. Unbelievable giluyim, we can call them, like a real elokus b'pshitas gush of the Rebbe. And these sichas, about the Achadasar, the Chadla, the Chushban, the Rebbe was all part of that. The Rebbe was immersing us in a very Mashiach-like reality. At the time, it was very overwhelming and very powerful. And then after that, I mean, this is we're talking Shvat. So this is what? This is
A month and a half before
Chav Zayin Adar.
Chav Zayin Adar, that's right. These were the last.
Yeah. And I think when Chav Zayin Adar came, and after that, 2 years later, another Chav Zayin Adar, then Gimel Tammuz, it took us. We have to now wrestle. We have to grapple with this. How to bring all of this into Kalim. And maybe that's one of the points of the Sikha, that there's an Achadasar, and it's very overwhelming and very powerful. And then there's time after that to bring it into the Kalim.
And yet, during the time of that we're processing, during the 40 years, the Rebbe says, it's not like there's 40 years. There was Achad Asar Yom and there's 40 years. The Achad Asar Yom is the Achad Asar Yom derech har seir hoilicham memshana. It's not that there is, you went 40 years, okay, now go process. It's the Achad Asar Yom itself carries us in the 40 years. So we're marinating in the Achad Asar Yom. We're marinating in the Giluyim that the Rebbe gave us, the Giluy of Atzmos that the Rebbe gave us already in Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, which is the reality, which is the emes on a deeper, godlier state of existence. It's mamish. We're living with the Shai Rabbi and the Levias and the Melech HaMashiach in front of us all the time. But open up.
In the words of the Sikha, there is this experience as it comes milamai l'lamata.
Yes.
And then there is the same experience, the way it is. I'm going to use your word, processed milamata l'mayla.
Yeah.
So I don't know that at the time anybody would have seen it that way. But looking back, I think these gifts and these giluyim are here for us to live with. The concept of Achadasar also is, definitely connected with a person being able to go out of their hakbalas, which I don't remember if those are the words used in the Sikha, but it's.
We're a generation that was given the koiches to do literally the impossible. It's the chibur of Atzmos and the world. To do the impossible and not lose ourselves in it, not to become like we stop being who we are and what we are. We can kind of like be who we are with our personalities, with everything about us, with the quirkiness of our whatever we are, and yet be in a state of total yichud with Atzmos Mamish. It's such an incredible impossibility, and yet this is what the Sikha is saying.
And yet this is it.
This is it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
Yes.
So how do we fit all of this with something that the Rebbe raises here, which is that there's the concept of Yud Aleph Dula Umaseh. This is
yeah
here in Ois Dalet.
Yeah.
The Rebbe, I feel like the Rebbe mentions it, almost doesn't even want to elaborate on it, but mentions it maybe once or twice, and then just kind of moves on. That as much as we're saying that Yud Aleph is the Etzem or the Gilui Etzem, and it's the Torah Chadosh Amiti Teitzei, and it's the what else? It's the second Nasi v'chulu. But we throw in that there's something called Yud Aleph Dul Umazeh. Achad Asar Yom is Derech Har Seir.
Yes.
And
then in the Midbar, and then in the Membeis Maso is going through Midbar Amim, going through the Midbar of the nations, to pick up the nitzutzes of Tayu to go back to the state of Yud Aleph.
So what is?
So that's the key. That's the key. That's the key.
Tell me.
So.
Vovkei b'gematria Yud Aleph.
Yes.
Vovkei b'gematria Yud Aleph.
Yeah. Related to Amalek. Dafka the beer of Amalek.
Oh boy. Okay, talk to me.
So the theme, the idea being over here, is it works two ways. Dafka the Gili of Yud Aleph, Dafka the power of number 11, that is Gili of Atzmos, has the power to confront the powers of the forces of darkness that are plugged in to a level higher even than the Keiches of Kedusha.
So again, I'm going to go back.
Yes.
In other words, there's a darkness until this Sikha, I thought, Zel Umazeh Asalakim is true only in Hishtalshlus. It's true only in Olamus. It's true only in whatever, up to a certain point. But then when you get to the Achados or the Chad V'Lo B'Chushbon, the Etzem, then it's B'voy the B'voy Leslu, the Shepata Gevorn from them. So it turns out that the Rebbe is letting us know here, I'm learning Pshat in what you said in the Sikha, that there's going to be a darkness which is going to catch us off guard. Yes or no? This is what you're saying. If you don't know what you're saying, say no. In other words, there's more darkness that after we've gone through all 10 levels of darkness and we think we're done.
Adrabah, the forces of darkness are plugged in and derive their power from a place that is so beyond, that is so infinite, that is so limitless, and that's why they're impossible. They're impossible. But the Eibishter did not
say they're just as impossible.
They are
just as impossible.
Yes, and only through the koyach of Achadas or the Kedusha. Only through the koyach, like the Rebbe told us already back in Yudah. It's the theme of Basi Legani. Only through Shtus the Kedusha are we able to take the Shtus the Liyumazeh and be Mahapachet. Only number 11 is able to transform number 11, which is the power of Esav. To take Esav and flip him over, don't get me going there, because that's no, because I believe this is when we learn these things, you have to realize this is reality. So we're going to look into the world. We're going to have to start seeing that these things panning out. So we have to start seeing certain koiches belu'umazeh flipping over to kedusha, and the Rebbe connects it to a power of Esav. That's the powers of Yud Aleph that are Yud Aleph that are getting nishapach. And I think that's pretty much something that if we're tuning in to certain elements in this world that are like not making any sense, I think is like, to me, it gets me very excited that this is a power of Yud Aleph that we're watching. That is dafka, the koyach of Yud Aleph, that can take Yud Aleph to the klipa and turn it over. And it works, and then it works the opposite. When you're mevarer the Yud Aleph of Esav, when you're mevarer through the koyach of Yud Aleph, that's when the real gili of Yud Aleph takes place. In other words, you get much more ba'oimek, the gili of Yud Aleph, that empowered you in the first place. So in other words, there is the Rebbe on Yud Shvat Tafshin Yud Aleph, who's the gili of Yud Aleph. That's before the 40 years, before the Rebbe sets out all the shluchim to conquer the entire world, even to conquer the world. And then after the conclusion of the 40 years, after we've gone through the Midbar, and we've elevated through the Membeis Masayis, we brought the sparks back, then we're bringing it back to Yud Aleph, and that's oimek opnimius of Yud Aleph, that's this galaven, which is, and then it's in our kelim, because we were the ones who did the beer.
In the language of Chassidus,
yes,
we're going to say, maybe, that this is not the lashon of the Sikha. I don't think that in the end the shorish of the kelim is higher than the shorish of the oir. So when we take the achadosar and we bring it into the kelim, we're going to get to a deeper place in the achadosar than we were before the kelim. Yeah, but over here the Rebbe doesn't talk so much in the Indian that mitzad the kelim, more mitzad shviras hakelim, more mitzad the inyanim of birur that we do in the world, in the outside world, in the unholy world, in our guf, in our nefesh bahamis, in all the brokenness in our life. When these things are fixed through our avodas of birurim, this is elevated and this kind of rings back and is megala achados or betarasei. Now something flashed through my head as you were speaking, because when did the Rebbe say that we finished avodas of birurim? Was that around this time? Yes. This is a few weeks before this. The first vayetze. This is Beshalach. So that's in Parshas Vayetze. That's when the Rebbe declared avodas haberurim was done. Vayetze vayishlach. So maybe, so now connected. Help me out here. So avodas haberurim is finished. Done. And therefore the Rebbe is saying that's why you have right now the Gili of Yud Aleph. Right now. It's interesting in the Sikha. Still Yud Aleph del Umazeh. No, it's already in Nesapach. Yud Aleph is also Nesapach. It's Nesapach already. It's done. That's the Nakuda. It's done already. And therefore, l'chu'ura, when it comes later, Parshas Mishpatim, when the Rebbe says the nations of the world are already being Mashiach is poiled, that the nations of the world are already denuclearizing and doing whatever, so on and so forth. This is all l'churi connected to this ishapcha that is already in ishapach in the terms of the koiches of the umazeh that are being flipped over already. In other words, it was flipped over in Tafshin and Beis. When the Rebbe said avodas haberurim, I'm learning what you're saying. The avodas haberurim is finished. Everything is finished. Yes. The rest is just how do we say, manifestation,
Yes,
expression.
and bringing it into our
Bringing it
kelim.
into kelim.
Bringing it into our kelim. And the more we bring it into our kelim, the more it's this gala in that we can see it in our reality, in our world.
I hear.
Yeah.
I hear.
It's interesting that it's mashma in the Sikha that year, Taka, Tafshin Nun Beis, since it's the end of the Mem Beis Masayis, the Rebbe kind of says that's the ultimate fusion of the everything is the aliyah of the entire avoid of all of Yidden have done from the beginning of time is all this Allah in its shirish, and this is where the Gilui is coming down. In other words, Mashiach is Galus. In other words, the Inyan is already on the table. Else, everything is here, everything is on the table. You have it all. There's nothing else that we need to be mamshich that wasn't nimshach yet. Now it's just a matter of us, like the Rebbe says, Parshas Chayesara, the Rebbe says, our avodah now is just to get ready to be makabel what is already here. Because everything's here. Mitzad the whole entire seder and purpose and goal of Mashiach being downloaded, this is Alston. It's now just our Kabbalah. Because 11 is the Isgalus of that.
So I'll tell you something that I heard. I heard that the Alter Rebbe's Chassidim once came to him and they complained to him that they're learning Tanya and they're learning his Chassidus and it's not working. You know, he promised them Moichinus, Moilimitis and all the rest of it. And they're the story doesn't say names, but they feel like it's not getting through. And the Alter Rebbe tzachvat veket, and the Alter Rebbe said, "You're right." You heard this?
No.
There's a part of this that I left out. And what is that? Negina. That in order to be able to bring this in. Like in different places of Chassidus, that when it gets stuck, you
have to sing.
You have to.
The Rebbe talks about singing.
So I found it amazing that one of the Hayrois that the Rebbe takes out, like Hayroa, like Tachlis B'Poyol, is the concept of Neshira, because it's Beshalach.
Not Stam Shira, but a different type of niggin. The Rebbe wants the niggin to change, that we should feel dveikus in already, not so much gaguyim. Imagine the Rebbe gives a Hayroa like that. The niggin has to start becoming a niggin of dveikus. And even the yearning for Mashiach should not be so much a yearning, but more like a dveikus of Mashiach.
One second, go back. What you're talking about is where the Sikha says, Noisef al ashira hakshura ma'aliyah milamata l'mayla tzarich liyaz achshav ashir shemitzad adveikus v'hahiskalus b'ha'elyon k'achana v'atchol ashir chadash. But b'miyuchad, the Rebbe says, b'negei lahatfila ala geula mitzvah vashla.
Yeah.
So that means the Rebbe is saying we have to daven for the geula.
Yeah.
And we have to daven for the geula with a shira.
With a shira.
With a niggin. And the niggin, I remember when they switched, by the way, the words of the niggin that they used to sing at the beginning of every Farbrengen, from Zolshen Zayin de Geula to the words Es Kumchen de Geula.
Yes. And that's what the Rebbe is emphasizing. To feel the feel that Mashiach is here. It's here. Not so much Gaguyim, but es is da. Now, how do we deal with the okay? So we have to the Rebbe gave us the koyach.
There's sometimes we say Tainuk to me the Eininiker, that in order to feel the Ava, in order to feel, you need a certain distance, right? But then that's one type of Ava, but then there's a higher level of Ava which is Fakert, Bedavka when it's here, Bedavka when you have it, and you can marinate in it.
Yeah.
There's a different level of Ava. So the Rebbe is saying the nigunim that we sing when we daven, the nigunim that we sing when we daven for the Geula, they're nigunim of quote hiskalulus b'ha'elyon. It's a tifa avoda.
Yeah.
A breakthrough tifa avoda. But this is one of the Hayrois.
Yeah.
And of course another Hayro, which was, although it was quite a theme at that time, remember, was to make Farbrengens.
Yeah.
To make Farbrengens.
And I guess we should put them together. That we should sing by Farbrengens.
Sing. And nicht stampsing,
because you go a lot of times we go by Fabrengens, we think okay, everything is the speakers and this. That's the chavek. You don't need nothing. Just sing.
And the style of the niggun,
Yeah.
right? Once upon a time they sing slow,
Yeah.
painful niggunim.
Yeah.
Now we're supposed to be singing songs about Geula.
Yeah.
Davening for Geula.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I
Wolf,
think.
you have the last word.
And when I learn these sikhs, especially Beshalach Yisra Mishpatim, it makes me sing. What can I tell you?
Makes you sing.
Makes you sing. Makes me sing.
You're saying not only Kabbalas oil, because
Yeah.
it's one of the heroes.
Yes, it's gewalt. This is gewaldig. This is so mind blowing. They realize that in Mahalchendart, you're seeing it in the world now. It's Mahalchendart, als Schnalzeriber. Yeah.
L'chaim.
Chaim.
We should see it begashmias.
Amen.
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 We should be zoich.
And I would recommend everybody learn the sikha.
Yes.
It's such a chayas. It's such a lift. Yeah. Chaim Rabbi Kesselman.
L'chaim Rabbi Wolf. No. Should be zoich. It's galus. Take it from the Yad Mamash.
Amen.